The airplane aisle hummed with a low, constant vibration, blending with quiet murmurs from passengers shifting in their seats. She cradled her baby against her chest, exhaustion etched across her face, but there was a stillness in her posture that refused to bow to the tension around her. Every glance felt weighted, narrowed eyes, stiff shoulders, whispered judgments, as though the very air of the cabin measured her worth. "It's just a few more minutes," she whispered softly to herself, the words barely audible over the engine's hum, a mantra of patience in the face of invisible pressure. A polished shoe tapped sharply against the aisle floor, drawing her attention. The flight attendant stood with her hands on her hips, lips pressed thin, eyes calculating. "Excuse me." "Step aside," the attendant snapped, a sharp intrusion cutting the fragile calm of the cabin. The mother's response was quiet, steady. "I'm holding my baby. I need a moment." The words hung in the air like a deliberate refusal to escalate, but the attendant's jaw tightened, a flicker of irritation betraying her composure. Around them, passengers shifted uneasily, some murmuring, some glancing at their phones as if recording the moment would give them courage. "This doesn't feel right," someone muttered under their breath. The mother held the infant closer, meeting the attendant's gaze not with defiance, but with measured dignity. A small coo from the baby punctuated the silence, a gentle reminder of vulnerability and resilience. The attendant's hand twitched, a gesture restrained by fleeting awareness, and she stepped back slightly, swallowing. The mother's eyes drifted past her, toward an unseen figure, a subtle tension threading the air. No one noticed the quiet power in her calm. Yet the sense that something unseen, something inevitable, waited just beyond the aisle was palpable. The hum of the engines continued, a low, persistent vibration beneath the tension in the aisle. The flight attendant's polished shoes tapped against the floor again, deliberate, sharp. Her fingers curled tightly around the edge of the service cart, knuckles white, as if gripping control itself. She leaned slightly, eyes narrowing on the mother holding her baby, patience misread as defiance. "Ma'am," she said, voice low but firm, "please move. You're blocking the aisle." The mother's gaze remained steady. "I'm holding my child. I need a moment." A flicker of irritation crossed the attendant's face. She straightened, adjusting her jacket as though authority could be sewn into the fabric. "It's not just about you. Rules are rules," a passenger muttered from behind, voice hesitant. "Maybe. Just let her be." The attendant's lips pressed tighter. "This is a plane. Everyone has to follow instructions." She glanced around, eyes caught on the faintly judging expressions of others. Some avoided looking, some tilted their phones, silently recording. The air was thick, quiet except for murmurs and the faint cries of a baby. Her breathing sharpened, shallow. "I've been trained for this," she muttered more to herself. "People like her, they don't respect order." The mother tilted her head slightly, voice calm but deliberate. "Respect isn't about uniforms. It's about humanity." For a moment, the attendant froze, caught in a flash of doubt, as if the weight of all previous unchecked arrogance collided with the quiet dignity across the aisle. She swallowed, straightened, but the control she relied on felt thinner now. Passengers shifted subtly, a collective unease rippling without a word. Somewhere beyond the crowd, unnoticed, a camera lens focused, capturing a moment that would unravel more than just etiquette. "Excuse me." "Move aside!" The words cut through the hum of the engines, sharp and sudden, echoing in the confined aisle. The mother tightened her hold on her baby, a soft rustle of blankets accompanying the small weight against her chest. Her voice was calm, measured. "I'm holding my baby. I need a moment." The aisle froze. Passengers shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting between them, hesitant, unsure. A man leaned slightly forward, whispering under his breath, "Did she just?" Another shook her head, phone angled but hands trembling. The flight attendant's polished hands clenched into fists, knuckles white against the cart. "This is your seat." "You can't just block the aisle," she said, tone strained, sharp edges cracking beneath the rehearsed politeness. The mother tilted her head, voice gentle but firm. "I am not blocking anyone. I am protecting my child." A pause. The cabin air thickened. Passengers whispered, uneasy. One muttered, "She's right."
Isn't she?
The attendant's jaw tightened. "You think you can just—" Her words faltered. Something in the mother's steady gaze, the quiet dignity, unshakable even under the scrutiny of dozens of eyes, disrupted her rehearsed authority. The mother adjusted the baby, soft cooing filling the silence. Respect isn't optional. It doesn't come from power. It comes from humanity. The attendant's breath hitched. She tried to speak, but the words stumbled over themselves. The line between control and chaos blurred. The uniform, the polished shoes, the rigidity, it all seemed suddenly fragile. Around them, murmurs grew, but no one intervened. Cameras clicked softly, recording, the whispers spreading invisibly. One small exchange, a few calm words, had shifted the balance. The power she assumed was absolute was now questioned. Quietly but irrevocably. The mother's eyes drifted past the flustered attendant to the unseen observer waiting beyond. A hint of justice yet to unfold, and the aisle held its collective breath. The slap landed like a crack through the quiet hum of the engines. Time stretched for a heartbeat. Gasps rippled quietly through the cabin. A collective intake of breath that felt like judgment itself. Passengers froze, some gripping armrests, others shifting uneasily, phones half raised and then lowered. The mother's hand instinctively steadied her baby, her calm unwavering. "That was unnecessary," she said softly, almost to herself. Her eyes met the attendant's, not with anger, but a quiet clarity that made the uniformed figure falter. The attendant's lips trembled. She swallowed hard, the color draining from her face. I didn't mean—" Her words faltered, caught between pride and panic. Hands curled at her sides, trembling. The polished shoes seemed heavier, the uniform stifling. A whispered murmur came from the aisle. "Did she really just—" Another voice, soft. "Someone call the captain." The mother adjusted the baby's blanket, voice calm, measured. "Respect is not optional. Power doesn't justify abuse." The attendant's chest heaved, shallow breaths quickening. Her eyes darted to the passengers, searching for allies, finding none. Each judgmental glance, each subtle phone tilt, chipped away at the ego she had wrapped so carefully around herself. I don't know what came over me," she stammered, voice cracking. A soft click echoed from a phone camera, another whisper. "This is going online." The mother's gaze drifted past the shaking attendant, past the murmuring passengers, to the figure beyond the aisle, the unseen observer whose presence had been quietly noted. Calm, steady, silent, he watched. The power she assumed was absolute crumbled in that single shocking instant. Leaving her internal chaos exposed to a quiet but uncompromising world, the mother held her baby close, eyes steady, scanning the aisle as murmurs rippled softly through the passengers. Faces turned subtly, whispers threading through the cabin. "Did you see that?" One voice asked, low, hesitant. Another muttered, "Someone should do something." Her gaze drifted past the flustered flight attendant, beyond the polished shoes and trembling hands, to a figure seated in the back row. He watched quietly, composed, the weight of authority unspoken but palpable. His presence alone seemed to anchor the room, subtle yet commanding. The attendant's eyes flicked nervously toward the figure, her confidence faltering. I was just following protocol," she said, voice wavering, as if the words themselves were fragile shields. The mother's voice remained calm, almost a whisper. "Protocol does not excuse harm." A soft rustle from the nearby passenger caught the flight attendant's attention. Phones were raised discreetly, some recording, some simply capturing the moment for memory. The tension thickened. Eyes darted between the mother and the silent observer, realizing a presence beyond immediate judgment existed. One passenger whispered under their breath, "He's watching everything." The mother adjusted the blanket over her child, voice measured but firm. Justice has a way of finding those who hide behind arrogance. The flight attendant's lips pressed together, a tremor passing unnoticed. She took a half step back, a subtle acknowledgement of a shift she could neither name nor resist. The observer remained quiet, hands folded, eyes steady, yet the weight of attention was undeniable. The cabin itself seemed to breathe differently. Passengers leaning slightly forward, murmurs softening, as if the presence of unseen authority had begun to tilt the balance. In that suspended moment, quiet power and silent dignity met, hinting at a reckoning just beyond sight, already taking root. She settled into her seat, the baby cradled securely, eyes distant. A soft sigh escaped her lips. "It's always like this," she whispered to herself. Memories flickered unbidden, a nurse brushing past her in a hospital corridor, eyes averted. A doctor dismissing her concerns with a polite smile that hid impatience. At the checkout counter weeks ago, the clerk had asked, "Are you sure you need that?" A subtle assumption, thinly veiled judgment that had stung more than words could measure. Her voice, calm in the present, spoke softly to the child. "People often see what they want, not what is real." A nearby passenger, sensing her quiet turmoil, asked gently, "Are you okay?" She gave a small nod, voice steady. "I'm fine. Just remembering." The whisper of old frustrations lingered. HR reports ignored, complaints filed, silenced by the weight of privilege. "You'll have to be patient," they had said, each time deflecting accountability. She had learned to breathe through it, to stand without reacting. Even when the system failed, her husband's words from a long night ago echoed in her mind. "Hold yourself in dignity, even when the world refuses it." She touched the baby's cheek, drawing strength from the small life in her arms. A flight attendant passed by, unaware of the depth behind her calm eyes. "Excuse me, ma'am?" The mother looked up, steady and composed. "Yes?" A simple interaction, yet each polite exchange reinforced the contrast between her quiet resilience and the arrogance of those who ignored history. In the hum of the cabin, her past was invisible to most, yet it shaped every measured movement, every composed word. She had endured unseen struggles, but today, in this aisle, those shadows only strengthened the dignity she wore like armor, unshakable and quiet. The flight attendant adjusted her cap, taking a slow breath. "Everyone, please stay seated," she said, voice controlled but tight. Her polished shoes tapped nervously against the aisle. The mother's calm presence seemed to unsettle her more than the murmuring passengers. She muttered under her breath as she passed a seat. "Why won't they just follow instructions?" A nearby colleague glanced at her but said nothing, casting a wary eye toward the passengers. In her mind, she replayed the countless evaluations where she was praised for efficiency, for maintaining composure under difficult situations. No one ever mentioned empathy or fairness, only results. "They respect authority," she told herself, though the words felt brittle. A passenger whispered, "She seems tense." Another added quietly, "Something's off." The mother's gaze did not waver, serene and composed, almost magnifying the attendant's inner tension. "I've handled worse," she murmured, as if reminding herself of the rules drilled into her since training. Her supervisor's voice came to mind, a clipped approval from months past. "As long as you follow procedures, complaints don't matter. Authority is everything." The memory, intended as encouragement, now pressed against her conscience. She approached the aisle again, hands gripping the trolley slightly too tightly. "Ma'am, could you—" Her words faltered when the mother looked up unflinching, voice calm. "I'm already seated. Please let me finish holding my child." The attendant froze, feeling the first stirrings of doubt. Microaggressions she had long ignored in herself and others now felt reflected back, small cracks widening in her constructed armor. She exhaled sharply, stepping back, swallowing frustration, aware passengers watched every movement. The aura of entitlement she relied on to command respect was fraying quietly, exposing the arrogance beneath polished smiles. A low murmur spreads through the cabin. Phones rise subtly, lenses angled to capture the tension without drawing attention. A passenger leans forward, whispering, "Did you see that? Did you just see what she did?" Another shakes her head, voice barely audible. I can't believe it." The mother remains still, cradling her baby, expression calm yet alert. sensing the subtle shift around her. A man in the aisle whispers into his recorder. This could go viral. People need to know. He glances nervously at the flight attendant, whose rigid posture begins to falter under the collective gaze. From the back, a young officer speaks quietly to a colleague, voice tight, hesitant. This won't go unnoticed. I've seen complaints ignored before, but now, his words trail, swallowed by the hum of whispered speculation. The flight attendant's knuckles tighten on the service cart. She exhales sharply, aware of eyes on her, the faint glow of screens pointing directly at her, and the quiet judgment pressing like a tangible weight. "It's just a misunderstanding," she mutters, more to herself than anyone else. Passengers exchange glances, some nodding subtly, others shaking their heads in disapproval. The mother's gaze meets theirs, serene, silent, and commanding in its quiet strength. The reporter leans closer, scribbling a note, whispering again, "This won't stay private. People will see." The officer swallows hard, torn between protocol and conscience, feeling the early tremors of accountability. Narration lingers on the cabin's energy, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift. Power has begun to tilt, unnoticed by the flight attendant, yet unmistakable to those watching. Each recorded moment, each whispered observation is a spark, igniting the slow burn of public scrutiny, the first ripple in what will become a tidal wave of justice. A woman in the aisle mutters under her breath, "I can't believe no one said anything before." Her hand hovers over her phone, recording, yet hesitant. Another passenger whispers, "It's been like this for years, and nothing ever changes." The flight attendant straightens, forcing a smile that falters. "Please, everyone remain seated. Everything is under control," she says, but her voice wavers just enough for someone to notice. A man in the middle of the cabin murmurs to a friend, "They always protect each other, don't they?" He gestures subtly toward the crew, voice low but sharp. The friend nods, eyes scanning the cabin. It's all these tiny things, ignored every time, but now, everyone's watching. The mother, holding her baby, shifts slightly, sensing the weight of attention. Her calm presence amplifies the subtle shifts around her. "I just want to get to my seat," she says softly, almost to herself. But the firmness in her voice draws quiet recognition. From the back, a flight officer leans toward another, whispering, "There are notes here. Complaints filed. No action taken. They let this slide, every time." His colleague glances at the attendant, hesitation and guilt written across his face. The attendant's knuckles whiten on the armrest. "It's just a misunderstanding," she mutters, and the words sound hollow even to her ears. Passengers exchange brief, loaded glances, some nodding silently, others shaking heads in disbelief. Narration lingers on the cabin's subtle transformation, a quiet power shift, invisible at first but undeniable. Each whispered observation, each recorded moment, fractures the authority the attendant once wielded effortlessly. The cracks widen, and privilege, long assumed unassailable, begins to crumble under the weight of collective attention. The social fabric shifts imperceptibly, yet irrevocably, as silent witnesses assert the moral weight of justice in every glance, every hesitation, every captured frame. The mother adjusts her hold on the baby, eyes steady, voice low but clear. "I've done nothing wrong. Please step back." The flight attendant swallows hard, forcing a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. I'm just doing my job," she stammers, knuckles whitening on the cart handle. A passenger leans slightly toward another, whispering, "Look at her!" She's calm, completely composed. The other nods, eyes flicking to the attendant, a silent judgment hanging in the air. The attendant bites her lip. "You need to move. Now!" Her voice cracks, a tremor betraying the panic underneath. "I can't. I'm holding my baby," the mother repeats, calm yet firm, as if the words themselves are shields. Her gaze sweeps the cabin, catching phone lenses, curious stares, subtle nods from those silently documenting the incident. From the back, a flight officer mutters to a colleague, "This isn't going to end quietly." Everyone's watching. The attendant takes a shallow breath, pacing, trying to reclaim control. This isn't necessary. We can resolve this later. Her sentences stumble, disjointed, as the quiet authority of the mother overshadows her own faltering confidence. Narration lingers on the tension. The mother's serenity radiates, compelling respect, while the attendant's ego spirals, exposed to every witness in the aisle. Microaggressions previously unnoticed now amplify her internal collapse, revealing the fragility of privilege when confronted with dignity. A teenager snaps a photo, a soft click echoing like a punctuation mark in the charged silence. Heads turn, murmurs ripple, and even those who had remained passive now shift subtly, recognizing the imbalance. The mother's subtle nod toward her seat, unhurried, almost graceful, signals quiet reclamation of space. The attendant stops, freezes, realizing her control is slipping, an invisible yet powerful reversal settling over the cabin. Reporter: "Can you tell us what happened on the flight?" The mother straightens, hands folded, calm, her voice even but firm. "I was doing nothing wrong. I simply asked for space while holding my child." A cameraman clicks. Microphones shift closer, capturing the tremor in the antagonist's hand. She clears her throat, glancing at her PR representative. I was following protocol," she stammers, eyes darting, unable to meet the mother's calm gaze. Narration notes the subtle breakdown. The attendant's polished veneer cracks with every sentence, each gesture betraying rising panic. The public eye magnifies every twitch, every stammer, exposing entitlement that once went unnoticed. Another reporter leans in. "Were you aware of previous complaints against you?" The attendant's lips part, then close. Silence. Her rigid posture falters as she realizes scrutiny has replaced the protection she once assumed. A passenger from the original flight murmurs into a phone, recording, "She just lost it." Finally, the mother tilts her head slightly, acknowledging the ripple of quiet support without words. "Justice is about truth, not volume," she says softly, almost a whisper. Cameras catch the sentence like fire catching dry wood. The antagonist's hands clench, voice shaking. I didn't mean..." A colleague leans close. "Stay calm. Control the narrative." Narration lingers. The mother's serene defiance dominates, while the attendant's ego fractures under observation. Faces in the crowd subtly shift. Some nod in recognition, others frown at arrogance exposed. The viral moment spreads, a single sentence, a captured gaze, rippling outward into social feeds, news tickers, and trending hashtags. The mother exhales, a quiet victory in her composure. The antagonist swallows, realizing every word now fuels public judgment, authority slipping irreversibly. Cameras tilt. Microphones lean in. The spotlight is unrelenting. "Mom, respect is not optional. Power does not justify abuse." The room stills. A sharp intake of breath echoes. Cameras tilt. Phones hover, recording every fraction of movement. Antagonist: I didn't mean..." Her voice falters, fragments of authority crumbling. Eyes dart to supervisors, searching for invisible shields that no longer exist. Narration captures the subtle chaos. Every micro-expression, every twitch, amplified under public scrutiny. The once polished composure fractures, revealing fear beneath practiced arrogance. Reporter: "Are you apologizing?" Antagonist: I suppose I..." She stops. Her words stumble, drowned by murmurs in the crowd. Colleagues glance down, whispering, uneasy. Silence spreads like a tide, washing over entitlement once unquestioned. "Mom, apologies are empty without accountability." The audience shifts. One passenger adjusts a phone, recording. Another nods subtly. A whispered "finally" trails through the room. Microaggressions, privilege, and unchecked authority unravel quietly under observation. Antagonist: "You don't understand, I was following procedure." Mom tilts her head, calm, unwavering. Procedures don't justify harm, and ignoring complaints doesn't protect you from truth. Narration lingers. The mother's voice, measured and composed, dominates the space. Ego collapses silently, the antagonist shrinking under the weight of her own actions. Faces in the room betray recognition, some in shock, others in relief. Antagonist's hands tremble. She swallows, realizing public judgment has replaced corporate protection. A shallow nod, a brief glance downward, and she steps back. The crowd exhales collectively. Mom breathes quietly, holding composure like armor. The room feels smaller, tension taut yet controlled. Every whispered acknowledgement, every silent witness strengthens her presence. Words have broken the silence. Authority exposed and dignity affirmed, leaving an emotional imprint far heavier than any raised voice could. Husband, standing quietly at the back, his eyes calm. Reporter. Sir, do you have a comment? He shakes his head slightly, voice low but firm. Not yet. Observation comes first. Narration traces the subtle ripple. Cameras tilt, phones hover, and whispered recognition spreads. Every eye in the room senses the silent authority behind him, contrasting with the antagonist's faltering confidence. Antagonist, voice cracking. I meant, this isn't what it looks like. Husband, quietly. Actions speak louder than excuses. The words fall like stones in still water. Micro-expressions betray panic. Fingers fidget, collars adjust, shoes scrape. He does not raise his voice, yet power shifts. The room's energy tilts. Journalist 1. The video, it's trending already. Public outrage is building. Narration emphasizes the irony. A room once dominated by enforced hierarchy now trembles under quiet observation. Passengers glance nervously. Aware that social judgment, amplified by technology, will not be silent. Antagonist, swallowing. Husband, do not speak over accountability. A collective pause settles. Reporters murmur into phones. Passengers whisper hashtags, the air thick with restrained judgment. The mother's calm presence complements his silent authority, forming an unspoken alliance against arrogance. Mom. Softly, almost to herself, truth does not need amplification. It demands recognition. Narration lingers. The poetic justice unfolds subtly. No shouting, no spectacle, just composed dignity, silent observation, and the irreversible public reckoning. Ego collapses quietly, and privilege, once assumed untouchable, fractures under the scrutiny of collective conscience. The antagonist's hands tremble. A fleeting glance toward the husband acknowledges defeat without words. Cameras click, murmurs rise, and the room holds its breath, bearing witness to justice delivered not through force, but through calm observation and societal awareness. Colleague, hesitant, tapping the phone. She's not answering. The office line keeps ringing. Assistant, checking emails. Same, no replies, not even a memo acknowledgement. It's unusual. Narration drifts. The hum of the city outside is muted. Flight lounges deserted, screens glowing with viral footage replayed endlessly. Authority once assumed is crumbling quietly, unnoticed by those who had benefited from it. Manager, frowning, voice low. The PR team is panicked. Social media, everywhere. Public trust is evaporating. Antagonist, finally answering the phone, voice strained. I can handle it. Just give me time. Colleague, softly. Time? The video has millions of views. People are talking. The streets, the lounges, they notice everything. Narration lingers. The facade of control is brittle. Privilege, once a shield, now magnifies every misstep. Office is empty. Calls unanswered. The air is dense with silent judgment. Assistant, corporate memos are coming in cold. Everyone's distancing themselves. No one wants to be associated. Antagonist, voice trembling, trying to mask fear. They'll understand eventually. It's a misunderstanding. Manager, firmly, misunderstanding doesn't go viral. Actions have consequences. And the city knows now. Narration emphasizes the quiet irony. A world that once bowed to status and arrogance now watches in silence, leaving the antagonist isolated. Dignity prevails without a single raised voice. Colleague, looking out the window, whispering, "It's strange." Streets empty, offices silent, and yet the lesson is loud. Privilege doesn't protect when truth finds its way. Antagonist, barely audible, I didn't expect this." Narration closes. The collapse is quiet, yet absolute. Authority shattered not by spectacle, but by collective awareness, patience, and the enduring weight of dignity. Mom, softly, holding the baby. "Look at you, growing so fast." Neighbor, passing by, glances briefly. "Morning. You look different, lighter somehow." Narration drifts. The apartment hums with quiet life, unremarkable yet charged with the resilience of someone who has endured more than most see. The mother's serenity is not performative. It is earned, rooted in years of unseen struggles, and now magnified against the backdrop of the public reckoning. Mom, scrolling through photos, a small smile. "Remember this day? You barely fit in my arms." "Still barely do." Friend, hesitant, noticing her calm. I saw the news. The way you handled everything. People are talking. Differently now." Mom shrugs lightly, eyes on the baby. "I didn't do anything different. Just kept my head, held space for truth. That's all." Narration emphasizes the subtlety of change. Neighbors offering small nods, shopkeepers holding doors a moment longer, whispered acknowledgments replacing the usual dismissal. Dignity is quietly reshaping perception, ripple by ripple. Neighbor, it feels like things are shifting. Not loud, not sudden, but noticeable. Mom, cradling the baby closer, a faint nod. Shifts don't need applause. They need patience. The world moves slow, but it moves. Friend, lowering voice. Thoughtful. You make it look easy. Mom, after a pause, quietly. Easy isn't the word. Necessary. And necessary is stronger than anger, louder than threats. That's what changes people. Narration closes. Her life continues. Ordinary in appearance, but extraordinary in essence. Where arrogance falters, quiet resilience thrives. Each small acknowledgement, each whispered respect, is proof that dignity endures, shaping a world that once seemed indifferent. Mom, holding the repaired coffee cup, tracing a finger along the crack. It's still whole. Fragile, but whole. Friend, watching quietly. Like everything else, right? This life, Mom, softly almost to herself. Justice isn't loud. It whispers, and it lasts. Narration drifts. The city's pulse is slower now, the chaos faded. Passengers from that flight, once silent witnesses, share subtle updates, photos, small acknowledgments, messages of solidarity. What began as private endurance has become a public ripple, unseen acts amplified by the quiet insistence of truth. Neighbor, hesitant, lowering voice. People are noticing. Even small gestures. They carry weight. Mom, nodding, eyes on the baby. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Accountability is slow, steady. That's what makes it real. Journalist, leaning slightly closer, notebook ready, and the world sees it differently now. Even authority. They're shifting, aren't they? Mom, calm, measured. Shifts aren't about spectacle. They're about integrity. One action, one word, one acknowledgement at a time. Narration observes, hashtags trend quietly, news snippets focus on subtle victories, and society begins to recognize the power of restraint and composure. The antagonist's downfall, once immediate and loud, is now contextualized by collective awareness and systemic reflection. Friend, smiling faintly, it's strange, peaceful, seeing it happen like this. Not chaos, just justice settling. Mom, gently, holding the baby closer. Peaceful because it's honest, because it's earned, and because it lasts. The world forgets noise, but it remembers courage. Narration closes. The cracked cup, once broken, is now whole again, a fragile but enduring symbol. Small, quiet acts of integrity ripple through the ordinary, leaving lasting change, where arrogance once ruled, now replaced by collective recognition and respect.